Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following all the news and rumors on next gen hardware. I'm Daemon Hatfield, and as always, I'm joined by Max Scoville, host of IGN's PlayStation podcast, Podcast Beyond.
Hello there.
Hello. And Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked.
I love how diplomatic you are, Damon. Each week you take turns introducing the other person first. Yep. It's very nice of you.
Yep. Everyone gets a turn. We've got a great show for you this week. We have more on the Red Fallout from last week, some very interesting comments from Phil Spencer on how competitive Xbox can be, and I know Ryan has some strong opinions on that. But let's begin with the big topic this week. By the time this episode airs, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom will be out in the wild. Many of you have been playing it. I don't know about you two, but it seems like there's more hype and excitement for this game than any game in recent memory. Everyone just seems to be just absolutely on the edge of their seat, waiting for this to be released. And now IGN's review is out. It's a 10 out of 10. The follow-up to a masterpiece is another masterpiece. Tom Marks wrote the review for us and did the video review. Make sure you check it out. It's fantastic. He does mention in his review that the sequel, Tears of the Kingdom, runs from a technical perspective exactly the same as Breath of the Wild. So it's still a very pretty game because of its art style, but when things get busy, the frame rate drops. And he does note that playing Tears of the Kingdom, he loved the game, but it makes him want a Switch Pro more than ever. And what about that Switch Pro? Nintendo has recently said that this week that there will not be a Switch Pro this year, nothing before April of next year, which is when their a new fiscal year would begin. But rumors had really been kicked into overdrive recently because Nintendo is returning to in-person events in a big way. They'll be at Gamescom in August, biggest game show in the world, and then they have their own Nintendo Live event in Seattle in September. It's easy to imagine they're coming back to these in-person events because they have some new hardware they want people to get their hands on. But now Nintendo says no hardware this year, and also Switch sales are on a slow decline, down year over year. So even though Switch is phenomenally successful, hardware sales continue to decline. Max, what do you make of all this? 'Cause it's also possible they could announce some new hardware later this year, but it won't be out until next year. They just sort of start building up excitement for it. What do you think?
That would definitely get people excited. The thing I keep forgetting, I think a lot of us forget this, is that Breath of the Wild was, in addition to being a launch title for the Switch, was also a Wii U game. Like, that had to straddle generations, which, it was announced as a Wii U game, which is kind of crazy to think about. And it, again, really impressive thing on that. They did the best with new hardware they could. And I'm really excited to see how they expand on that with Tears of the Kingdom. That said, it is a little bit disappointing to hear that, it chugs a bit still on that hardware. It also isn't surprising to hear that Switch sales are starting to decline because I feel like everybody has at least one Switch at this point. Anybody who's on the fence about it, I feel like they probably have just decided not to. But then again, maybe Tears of the Kingdom hype will get them on board. I can't help but feel like maybe they're going to see a little uptick. If it's not with Tears of the Kingdom, sometime in the holiday, if they do a price drop or something like that. New hardware. Nintendo really good about getting me excited about the tail end of their hardware before they announce something new. Like when they had the new 3DS XL or the new 2DS XL. They have very good sort of like late generation redesigns. I'm always a big fan of the Game Boy Micro. I really just want a fresh new Switch. I don't want to get excited about like a slightly redesigned model. I think we need a little kick in the behind there. Something that can kind of keep up with recent hardware.
The Lite didn't do it for you, the Switch Lite?
I was really excited about that, and then I heard that it's still susceptible to Joy-Con drift, so, that terrifies me.
Ryan, what about you? You've been a little bit skeptical recently that there is any new hardware from Nintendo anytime soon.
Yeah, Nintendo have they ever really done they haven't done a proper mid-cycle refresh, right? Because that really was only introduced with Sony and Microsoft last generation.
Well, there was the new 3DS
hardware
XL.
I'm talking under the hood.
No, it was I think it was the new 3DS.
Okay, but on the home platform.
Right,
I know, not to discount.
Yeah.
The 3DS is insanely successful.
There was the memory card booster for the N64.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's okay. You got me there. Yes, I will give you that one. But yeah, they just don't seem super interested for whatever the reason. They don't seem super interested in just going with a Switch 1.5. So, that will only increase the anticipation for what, again, the console that I want this to be called the Super Switch. I want to connect,
I'm right there with you, man.
And
Day one atomic
Super
purple. That's
Switch.
all we want. We're old. We want our old toys
Yes.
from the 90s.
But it's also going to increase not just the anticipation, but the expectations for what the next-gen Switch can do. Like, I mean, if the next Switch can't do 4K in docked mode, I mean, is it going to stop any of us from buying it?
No.
Let's be honest. No, it's not. Am I going to be kind of disappointed, though? Yes. I mean, because now 4K TVs are pretty ubiquitous. I don't have the stats in front of me to back me up on that. But in the gaming space, 4K TVs are pretty ubiquitous. So I don't know. I mean, it's Zelda. My hope is that these two Zelda games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, will, if not quite literally, I mean, literally at one end, but effectively serve as bookends for the Switch generation. My hope is that if it's, Nintendo says no new hardware before April, their next fiscal year, my hope is that next fall of 2024 is going to be it. Now, whether they want to start teasing that at Nintendo Live or Gamescom, that I'm not sure of. They've really been keying in on the directs. I mean, they held multiple 5-minute directs to promote the Super Mario Brothers movie this spring, and it worked great for them. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm eager. As of this recording, I have not played Tears of the Kingdom, so I'm not a person that's hung up on 60 frames per second. But I just need a consistent 30, and we'll see how well Tears of the Kingdom holds up. Breath of the Wild for me was acceptable. I wasn't like, this frame rate, but it certainly wasn't this insane smooth experience either. So I expect Tears of the Kingdom probably lives, according to Tom's review, somewhere right in that same zone that Breath of the Wild did.
Yeah, I mean, the Switch has one advantage, is that because it is maybe not underpowered, but it's, compared to current gen hardware, it's got room to grow. And I really would love to see them kind of announce something that's just, it allows more maybe last gen stuff to get ported over. We've seen a lot of things get like really sort of de-resed, lower end ports. And, that's great. That's exposing a whole new audience to that stuff. But like maybe, 4K, just give it just get the HDR in there. Like make it.
HDR is probably that we might be aiming a little too high if we're looking for HDR on Nintendo.
If I can't get a PS4 Pro in my pocket, give me just a regular PS4. Just get it that big.
I'd take that.
Yeah.
We don't really know what Nintendo has after Zelda. They have Pikmin in August, but besides that, we don't know what they have for this fall. So, but they definitely have something, because they're coming to Gamescom. They have their Nintendo Live event. They're going to be showing something there. So,
well, it was we had 6 years between the Zelda Breath of the Wild as a launch title and now Tears of the Kingdom, and we are now going to surpass 6 years between mainline Mario games as well. As the guy who reviewed Super Mario Odyssey for IGN, that was my game of the year. No disrespect to Breath of the Wild, but Odyssey was it for me in 2017, and we have not even a whisper of what's going on the AAA Mario front. So hopefully a day one launch title for Mario for the Super Switch. That is nice. What I will hold on to in my heart.
You're forgetting one big one, and honestly, there's an anniversary coming up, and it's got to be the 10th anniversary of them revealing the Metroid Prime 4 logo pretty soon. I think that's due for an HD remaster, honestly. All we've gotten was the logo, so just, I don't know. That and Mario, I think, would be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm very excited to play Zelda, but I do think it's about time for some new hardware at Nintendo. I think it is still possible they could announce something this year. The only thing that makes me cautious about that is that Nintendo's president said that they're forecast to sell another 15 million units this year, but he admitted that's going to be difficult. And if they announce a new console in the fall, that's not going to do them any favors in selling Switches
That's
until
true. Yeah, you don't want to Osborne
year,
yourself, which is exactly what would happen in that situation.
Yeah.
It didn't matter when it was going Wii U to Switch, because they'd already just shot themselves in the foot repeatedly. It's like, yeah, we have a new one coming. Great. And we'll tell you ahead of time.
In the meantime, I'm very excited to start playing Zelda. Hope everyone out there is enjoying themselves as they play the latest masterpiece from Nintendo. Let's switch gears to Xbox. Obviously, Redfall sort of had a disastrous launch last week. Phil Spencer was on Kind of Funny Games podcast to address those, and to his credit, he was very upfront and took credit for it, didn't blame anyone else for it. But Ryan, he also had some very interesting comments. To paraphrase, he basically said, "There's no world where they can out-console PlayStation and Nintendo." Admits that Xbox is in third place and is basically saying there's no world where that changes, where they leapfrog either company. What did you make of that?
Well, we spent an hour on this on Podcast Unlocked this week, so I will once again plug my own show if people have not seen or listened to that. But seriously, I thought we had a really great conversation with our panel this week, and then we had some fun after. We did our first ever Xbox Game Showcase draft, where we went around the table a few times and drafted the games we thought were going to be most likely to appear at the showcase. Anyway, Phil, I've known Phil professionally for a long, long time. I think he's a genuinely good person. He is a gamer, which you can't say about Doug Bowser or Jim Ryan, separating it from obviously the business side of things. Phil gets it. He knows how the community is feeling. He knows the frustration. He knows the patience has run out. For me, I get where he's coming from when he says, we can't out-console these guys. And Phil's point was, well, we're trying to basically play a different game, not necessarily with different rules, but we're over here trying to just get on as many devices as we can. And that he said if Starfield's an 11 out of 10, again, this is a paraphrase, if Starfield's an 11 out of 10, nobody's going to throw away their PS5. He's not wrong about that, but I very much disagree with him about the idea that getting great games out isn't going to bring people over to your ecosystem. Because he said in this interview as well that they lost the Xbox One generation, which was devastating because that's where everybody kind of got cemented into their digital ecosystem with all their digital game purchases and DLC purchases and that kind of thing. So again, he's not wrong about that, but I just could not respectfully disagree more with the notion that they're just stuck in third place, because it can't happen overnight. Phil in the same interview brought up, well, we're not in the cartridge and disc era anymore, where it was a hard reset at the start of a new generation, and we could win that market share right back. Again, he's right about that, but where I just fundamentally disagree is how the Xbox became successful in the first place. Like the original Xbox, you could call it a successor, you could call it a failure, because you can make the case either way, because it bled money. It was not profitable, but Microsoft knew it would be. It was there to get a foothold. They did that. The 360 had this brilliant vision from day one. We're going to be an x86-based PC-like box with plenty of horsepower. They upped the RAM at Epic's insistence up front. They listened to their developers who said, hey, if you want Gears of War, we need more RAM. And Microsoft said, we will spend that money and put that RAM in our boxes. And so they were developer friendly. They signed all these great games. And look at the first 3 years. Again, I talked in depth about this on Unlocked. The first 3 years of 360 were incredible, from both first party and third party. And so you fast forward to now, and while no, you can't flip the script quickly, Starfield alone won't do it. But if you can consistently put out 11 out of 10 games, okay, that's not realistic, of course, because that's not a real score, but if you can consistently put out those amazing first-party exclusives the way that Sony has done, people will come back. They're not going to throw their PS5 in the trash, but maybe after enough of those wins, if you can just get win after win after win, as Sony did, starting at the back half of the PS3 generation, heading into the PS4 generation, and continuing all through it now into PS5, you're going to get people who go, when it comes time for that next generational shift to PlayStation 6 and Xbox Series Y, well, if you've been winning and you've been consistent, some of those people are going to go, well, I still like my PS5 and the Sony stuff's cool, but man, I might buy the new Xbox first because they've been killing it. So I just fundamentally disagree with the idea that they can't move the market share needle. It's just they can. It's just going to take longer, and it's going to take a hell of a lot more successful games to get there. But anyway, that's my monologue. We had a heck of an hour about this on Unlocked.
No, you raised a really interesting point on Twitter the other day about how the sort of Xbox 360 glory days was a long time ago. That was a cool minute ago, and a lot of people who are now approaching the age of buying their own consoles, they maybe weren't around for that. They don't remember it. That was their infancy.
Xbox was never the cool thing to them. Yeah,
no, they don't have any nostalgia for that. And like Sony on the flip side is like, I think they've done a pretty good job of kind of dusting off some of their older stuff, Ratchet and Clank, stuff like that, but then also introducing, new IP. And then it doesn't hurt that, they've got games that have kind of grown up with them. And, The Last of Us went from being a killer video game to being a probably award-winning show.
Yep.
And then I think we're going to see a lot more of that. There's a bunch more projects like that in the works. And, Microsoft has a pretty solid stable of a variety of different IP. They got Bethesda, they've got Activision. There's a lot there to work with, and it's just a matter of making the games for it. So like infrastructure is great, focusing on xCloud and getting the whole Xbox ecosystem to work. I think that is fascinating. I want to see where that goes, but you can't discount the importance of having games, because at the end of the day, the thing you're playing on is kind of irrelevant if the game isn't fun. That's the end goal, is the game.
Yeah, I totally agree with Ryan. I share your disagreement with Phil, who seems like a great guy. But yeah, I agree with you that making great games can make a significant impact. It would allow Xbox to, I think they could, over time, if they had the significant library of their own exclusive great games, that could significantly increase their market share. Yeah, I was just surprised by his comments this week. Anyway, Starfield is the next big release from Xbox, and as we were saying recently, a lot is riding on that now. But if it's great, Ryan, if it's an 11 out of 10, I think, you get enough of those games and people start to think Xbox is starting to look more attractive now. We've got the results of last episode's poll. We asked you, is 30 frames per second, which Redfall launched at, is that acceptable in games today? Over 50% of respondents said no. It's no longer acceptable. About 24% said it depends on the genre. 12.5% said they can't tell the difference. And only just under 12% said that yes, 30 frames per second is acceptable. I think I agree. I think we're all sort of in agreement. It kind of depends on the genre. First-person shooters, right? But
anyway, who pre-ordered Tears of the Kingdom? Who's going to get on board with it?
Yeah. Yep. Well, speaking of Tears of the Kingdom, that's our poll for this week. We want to know, first impressions. It's only been out for a few hours now, but if you're playing Tears of the Kingdom now, are you satisfied with Tears of the Kingdom's performance on the over 6-year-old Switch hardware? Yes, no. Are you indifferent, or are you not playing Zelda? Make sure to vote at IGN.com. We'll share the results with you next episode. And that's going to do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. Thank you to both Max and Ryan. Thank you to everyone working behind the scenes in our LA and San Francisco studios to make this episode possible. My name is Damon. We'll be back next week with more Next Gen hardware news and rumors. See you then.